Hello fellow celiacs. The holidays. A time of year that's normally filled with joy and love, friends and family, and, oh yeah, food. Yes, that's right. I'm here to destroy the holidays for you, with talk about how much more difficult it's going to be for you now that you have celiac disease. But fear not. I'm going to try to spend just as much time on what you can do to manage the stress of it all, and at least survive all the family visits and holiday parties without getting glutened. I'm not going to lie though, this is going to be tricky. For one thing, you're going to find that most of the things you used to love that remind you of the holiday season are full of gluten. If you're traveling to visit family, you're going to discover that the rest of your family probably has no idea what gluten even is. And when you tell them, they may not understand. They might even take offense that you can't eat their food. Or they might try to accommodate you and get it wrong, and you'll have to turn down their food and explain why you can't eat it. There are some things you can do, though, to handle these types of situations gracefully and make sure no one's feelings or intestines get hurt. First things first, if you haven't seen all of my other videos, you might want to block off some time to do that. Even if you have, you may still want to review them, at least the ones about what you can and can't eat, as well as how to make your kitchen safe, and lastly, the episode on how to host a celiac for non-celiacs. You might even consider sending that last one to your family and friends, or even watching it with them, especially if you're going to be traveling far away from the safety of your own kitchen and are going to be subjected to someone else's cooking who may or may not be read in on the specifics of eating safely as a celiac. Now, if you live with your family and will not be traveling for the holidays, then hopefully you've had time to get everyone up to speed, and maybe you've even talked about how to adjust your favorite recipes. I'm going to do a whole episode soon about how to make almost any recipe gluten-free, so stay tuned for that. If you are traveling though, and will be in an unfamiliar kitchen, possibly eating someone else's food, then that's what the rest of this episode will talk about. So you've been invited to your aunts, your grandmothers, your in-laws, whatever, and you have no idea what the state of their kitchen is, or if they have even heard the word gluten before. There's such a steep learning curve with celiac that the more information and advice you can provide up front, the better. And since you're the guest in this scenario, you might as well do everything you can to ensure there's safe food for you there, i.e. don't leave it up to someone else. And that's up to and including bringing your own food or even making your own food while you're there. When I started visiting my wife's family for the Christmas holidays a few years ago, we made sure everyone, not just the people cooking, understood that I had a dietary restriction and needed special accommodation. You seriously want to get this one out there and up front first thing, like shortly after you get the invite to come and visit. No sense in springing it on anyone last minute, even if you think you'll just not eat their food and eat something else that you brought or otherwise take care of eating before the visit. It's so much easier to not have to explain this whole thing from the top when you're already seated at the dinner table. My wife's family lives in Indianapolis, a short puddle jump from the borough of Brooklyn, and we normally spend several days to a week there when we go. So over the years, we've come up with a few things to make ourselves for the actual Christmas meal as well as throughout the week. It helps that my wife is vegan and to a degree already did this when she'd visit before she met me. For a lot of these recipes, we would bring all of the ingredients and block off time to make our dishes when the kitchen was free. This included dishes for all of the meals as well as our own batches of cookies, so we'd have stuff to nibble on and get fat without having to feel left out while everyone else was doing the same. If you've had the diagnosis for a while, you've hopefully had time to build up some good recipes, or at least find gluten-free versions of your favorite things. If not, I guess I'll put a few recipes in the, I think it's called a doobly-doo. What worked best for us was to pre-measure and bag up the ingredients for cookies and other baked things and label them. Lots of fun trying to get them through airport security though, let me tell you. Also, for ingredients that we weren't sure we'd be able to find at my in-laws' local grocery store, we would bring those things in a big enough quantity to get us through the week. Things like cereal we like, snacks, desserts, etc. Weird ingredients like nutritional yeast. Now, in the past, we have had people wanting to cook things for us, and for the most part, it's been fine. Save for one time I assumed a pork roast my mother-in-law made would be safe. It was not. It had soy sauce in the marinade. But that one was on me because I didn't check. Always check. When you're visiting someone for the first time though, when this is all new to them, you should definitely discourage people from trying to make dishes when you're not around to supervise. It's well-intentioned, but they will inevitably get something wrong. And they'll either feel bad that you're not going to eat it or feel bad that you got sick if you do eat it. but of course you're not going to eat it. Anyway, now after years of visits, everyone has hit their stride and we can start to trust them a little more. My sister-in-law even makes us vegan, gluten-free chocolate-covered pretzels every year, feverishly sterilizing her kitchen before each batch like the shining example of a gluten-free ally that she is. But this took work and plenty of patience with people on both sides of my family, because people will make mistakes. My mother has been in training for years on this one, with plenty of hiccups along the way, like the times she forgot that oats are not always gluten-free, or the handful of times she's tried to sneak a box of cornstarch by me that said may contain wheat on the label. But she's learned over the years how best to accommodate not just my diet, but also my nephew's gluten-free diets, my sister's low FODMAP diet, my brother's lactose intolerance, my other sister's sobriety, and my brother-in-law's nut preferences. Yeah, one year she had to make 3 different versions of her famous trifle. One with gluten-free sponge cake, one with regular sponge cake, one with brandy, one without, and one with only half nuts. It was an insane amount of preparation, but I had to commend her for the effort. Oh, and she also finally bought a new toaster a few years ago to designate as the gluten-free toaster, which makes breakfast there much better. Gluten-free bread is notorious for tasting terrible untoasted. Now, in the case of holiday parties, you may want to go check out my Potlucks episode, as there are a lot of parallels between those scenarios and this. Think food made in someone else's kitchen. Top tips: bring your own food, eat before you go, don't take any unnecessary risks. Bonus tip: if you find yourself in a scenario where you're at a party or someone's house and someone is offering you something you don't trust, and you're exhausted from explaining things and are not sure how they're going to take you turning down their offer, it's best to have a deflection prepared. My friend Jess told me recently of a time one of her relatives bought her what they said was a gluten-free cake from a gluten-free bakery around the corner. Now, Jess is a blogger and knows all of the places that are safe, and was pretty skeptical if this person had done the level of research she usually does. So she just told her that she was cutting back on sweets for the new year. Not every moment has to be a teachable one, and sometimes doing all of the work to get people on the same page with you on the pitfalls of a gluten-free diet can be truly tiresome. It's okay in these instances to deflect. Now, as far as temptation to try things anyway, hopefully most of you are past that. Personally, I just see tomorrow's stomach ache when I look at anything containing gluten, no matter how appetizing it looks. But in the beginning, you are going to see a lot of your favorite traditional dishes and cookies, candies, and desserts staring you down, and you may be hard-pressed to resist cramming them into your face hole. I think it's very important then to look around prior to the start of the holiday season to find gluten-free alternatives, because they do exist, whether that's buying them or making them, because you want to be able to enjoy yourself. Having this diet shouldn't just be about the things you can't have anymore. You have to start thinking about what you can still have. Because holidays without food, in my opinion, are not holidays at all. So that's it. I hope this has been helpful. I've added some recipes that I like in the description below. Some I've tried, some I have yet to. I recently went to a gluten-free recipe exchange with a New York City celiac disease meetup group, so some of the recipes are from that. I'm going to eventually do an episode on these meetups and how important it is to find your people and meet them out in the world. It can be so therapeutic to commiserate with other gluten-free people away from the misinformation that's so rampant in Facebook groups and Reddit forums. It's a fantastic community we have up here in the city too. So stay tuned for that episode, like and subscribe, and remember, there is life after gluten. Happy holidays.